Job of Chinar Corps commander was very challenging, very interesting, because every day in the evening when you got back into your room, you had sense of achievement. Operation Ma became successful, and as I said earlier, more than 50 boys returned. I don't use surrender. 50 boys returned. There were times when the mother is speaking to the terrorist, and the terrorist mobile recharge has run out. We made the recharge for the terrorist. The complexities of conducting counter-insurgency or counter-terrorism operation in own country are numerous. The young boy of Kashmir today or the young girl has future. Now he can compete at different levels. मोहम्मद गजनी से लेके आज तक किसी गाजी की परवाह नहीं है. कितने गाजी आए, कितने गाजी गए, don't worry. India is there, India will remain there.
Hello everyone, we are back today with a very exciting episode. Our guest needs no introduction. He is Lieutenant General KJS Dhillon, also known as General Tiny Dhillon. The towering general was commissioned into the Rajputana Rifles of the Indian Army and also served as the Corps Commander of the Chinar Corps at Srinagar. At the time of retirement, he was holding the appointment of the Director General of the Defence Intelligence Agency, also known as the DIA. He is coming soon with his book. Here, he is being interviewed by NCC cadet Sohraab Singh of Saint Kabir Public School, Sector 26, Chandigarh, for 40 days in an unscripted, informal interview. Sohraab himself is a keen observer of military matters and international relations and hails from a military family.
Hello everyone, we are here yet again on another episode of Fauji Days, and today we are interviewing General KJS Dhillon. He was the Director General of the Defence Intelligence Agency, which is a joint services institution. He has also served as the Director General of PB, and he was also the Chinar Corps commander, which is the formation station in Kashmir. They deal with the counter-terrorism operations there. So without any delay, let's get right into it. Let's get into the interview. Welcome to the show, sir. I'm glad to have you here.
Thank you, Shiva.
And I was looking forward to interviewing you. And I have a few questions lined up. So with your permission, let's start.
Absolutely, Sohraab, all yours.
Okay. So, sir, my first question is that tell us a bit about your early life, about your childhood, how you got into the army. I'm sure you've told us a bit in your book, Kitne Ghazi Aaye, Kitne Ghazi Gaye. So, how did you gain interest? How did you join the army?
Sohraab, to start with, coming from Punjab and having respect for the army, and as an Indian, having respect for the uniformed people is inherent in our blood or in our DNA. As a child, my elder Mamaji was in the army. My younger Mamaji was in the BSF. So I used to see them getting ready every day and used to get motivated to wear the uniform one day. That is how I got influenced or inspired. Now, joining the army, there's a class fellow of mine in school, Mr. Harish Jang Bahadur, whose complete family was in army, if I can say that. His elder four brothers were in NDA.
Wow.
He also wanted to join NDA, and as a result, in those days, there was no online filling of forms. So he went to the recruiting office, picked up the forms for the whole class, and he filled the forms for everyone, including me. So that is how we got going for the NDA exam pass se, and cleared the exam, then SSB, medical, and that's it. Now, coming to what was my early life, how was my schooling and childhood, I can tell you I was as good a student as any other student in the class today. Initially, I was mediocre in studies. Subsequently, I picked up the pace. I failed in the class. I failed in exams. I did not make the cut in a particular percentage. So all those things which are happening to students today or the youngsters today have all happened to me. It's not that today I'm in a position or I've reached a status where you have come to interview me. So I was a successful person or I was an achiever from day one. No, it came by and by. Every child, every student has his pluses and minuses, has his ups and downs. That does not mean you give up. Failure is just a stepping stone for success. So my, sort of a message to everyone is, do your bit, next time do it harder, and when it's the do or die situation, do it the hardest. That is how it works. And it works in every field of life.
Great. So, as we have heard, General Dhillon has family members who were in the armed forces and the paramilitaries. And you don't need to be special, you don't need to be a high scorer to get into the army. You just need to have the right mindset, you need to have the motivation. Even if you're not physically fit, you'll get physically fit. You just need that motivation, you need that drive to get yourself past that mark. So really inspiring, sir, and I think that younger people will really appreciate that.
And the point which you made, Sohraab, about being physically fit. See, in the army, when we are looking at the talent or when we join NDA at the age of 16 or 17, we in the army are not, or the defense forces are not looking at the finished product. That you have to be physical fit, you have to walk 40 kilometers, you need to climb mountains, you need to, lead your men into battle. That comes with the training. Two qualities which are must before you join the NDA is honesty and integrity. That means when you go for the SSB, be honest about it. If you don't know something, say it upright. Because we don't want people who are wanting to cheat their way through.
Yes.
Then they will cheat this nation if they're able to get through into the services. We need honest and people with 100% integrity. Rest of the things will be inculcated during training, on the job training, the chiseling, the mentoring in the unit, and as you keep going up. So don't be under the impression that army is looking at a finished product of an officer when you are appearing for NDA. We are only looking at a very fine young man who is honest, and rest of the things we can manage.
So have an upright stance, be honest, have some integrity. Don't lie your way through it, because if you do, you'll never really be a real soldier, because honesty and integrity are essential parts of soldiering. So other than that, let's move on to the next question. Yeah. I think it's close to me because I am quite fond of weaponry. So what is your favorite weapon that you've used in the army?
See, there are a lot of weapons which are there in the army, starting from a small pistol or a grenade right up to the missiles which have got a longer ranges. And I just want to tell you what is weapon, hathyar. Hath yar. Jiske haath mein hai, uska yar hai. That means a weapon is a friend or person who is holding it. So the best weapon is which is used and used effectively at the right moment when you need it the most. That may be a grenade, that may be a missile. If there is a terrorist trying to hit me and I can hit him before he can do anything with a pistol or a grenade, that's the best weapon. If a tank is coming onto me and I can fire a missile onto it and destroy it, that is the best weapon. The best weapon is circumstances based, it is the requirement based. That's why we have an array of weapons, as you very rightly said.
Yes.
So whenever a team goes out for a mission, they do not carry all those X number of weapons. They pick up the weapons which are required in that mission. So it's a mission-oriented composition of the team, including the men who are most suited for that particular mission, and the weapons they carry are the ones which are most likely to be used in that specific mission for accomplishment of the mission.
Yes, sir.
So weapon, hathyar. Jiske haath mein hai uska yar.
So you gave me quite a philosophical answer and I appreciate that quite a bit. Yeah. But which one did you enjoy using the most?
Personally speaking, there's a weapon called 30mm automatic grenade launcher.
Yes,
it's originally of Russian origin. It got introduced into the Indian Army in early 90s, that is 91, 92. And that is when I was a captain and instructor in infantry school. And this weapon was given to me for exploring it, for getting to know the capabilities, the limitations, the characteristics, as also to write the précis of that weapon, which the students will read, the document, the catalog. So I did a lot of things on that weapon. I fired it on ground, I fired it on water surface, I fired it in jungle, I fired it in deserts. And I really could take out the best out of the weapon as an instructor and could teach the officers and the GSs and Jawans about that weapon. So on personal note, automatic grenade launcher 17 is my personal favorite.
Great. So अगर आर्मी ज्वाइन करनी है वेपन्स टेस्टर बनो, बहुत मजा आएगा. So thank you, sir. So after that, moving on to the next question, I recently saw that you posted on social media asking people not to tag you in any hateful messages and that you would block them if you did. So what's your message to today's youth about maintaining harmony in society and not getting involved in hateful campaigns like these that are probably sponsored by our adversaries, if we are putting it bluntly?
See, when you look at the army gets its recruits from all over India, all states, all religions, all communities. Similarly, the officers. So army is a nation in itself. And again, army teaches you a few things which are there in the précis, which are there in the timetable, which are there in the book. But army teaches you 500% more things which are not there in any pamphlet. They teach you while you are talking, while you are sitting, while you are eating or anything, on the job training. And maximum we learn from is our JCOs and Jawans. Coming back to your question, on my Twitter or Instagram timeline also, I have requested very politely not to indulge on any hateful message or any political issues or religion issues. Because social media is for social interaction. And if you start abusing me and I start abusing you without even knowing each other or having seen each other's face, then where is the sociality in that? Where is the sobriety in that? Where is my upbringing? Where is your upbringing? Where is my schooling? Where is your schooling? So let's indulge on social media in a positive manner to learn from each other's experiences. You have a lot to teach me. I have few things to teach you. If we start abusing each other in the name of religion or politics or whatever, we will never be able to extract the best out of the person with whom we are engaging.
I think that it's easier to hate than to love, and that's why...
But it is most beautiful to love.
I agree, definitely.
That hate is a very, very dangerous thing.
I think that social media should be like an officer's mess where everyone can get together and love each other.
Discuss ideas.
Exactly.
Discuss ideas, no holds barred. Give your opinion. Don't be shy in giving your opinion. Give your opinion in the most respectable manner which you can. Because that shows your parenting, that shows your schooling. Your opinion is something which you have. गाली दे के opinion देना और प्यार से opinion देना are two different things. You can convey your point very firmly in a very respectable manner.
And I think that the point will get conveyed better if you're...
Absolutely, if you're calm. So there is a lot of sense in what you're saying. I agree with you.
Yes, and I agree with you.
Thank you.
One needs a clear mind to properly engage in discourse.
Yeah.
So moving on to the next question. We are going to get to the technical side of this interview now. A bit more technical,
Okay.
I'd say.
Don't ask me technical questions. I am a BA from NDA. Although I did a MSc later and a PhD, but still I remain a BA from NDA.
Okay, well, what was your experience commanding a corps, especially the Chinar Corps? I'm sure that's a very challenging appointment, being stationed in Kashmir. That formation has seen quite a lot of action, I believe. And what was the experience commanding that corps, especially with the counter-insurgency going on?
See, being a corps commander in Kashmir, I written in my book, about 60% of my book is on the question which you asked, about 200 pages. So I'll try and answer it in about 2 minutes. The command of Chinar Corps is not only killing of terrorists. When I was a captain or a major, probably that was my job. Today, when I was the corps commander, that job was being done very well by the battalion commanders, the captains, majors, and below. As a Chinar Corps commander, I had, firstly I must tell you officially, since it's a technical question, technically Chinar Corps commander looks after the line of control, the operations across the line of control into Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, and operations on the line of control, including the counter-insurgency or counter-infiltration grid, and the conventional operations as and when the war happens. He also is responsible for the counter-terrorism operations on the valley floor in conjunction with Jammu Kashmir Police and the CRPF and intelligence agencies.
Yes, sir.
He is also responsible for management of perceptions, may it be through social media, may it be through personal interactions, may it be through the media channels or print media or television media. He is also responsible for all the intelligence aspects. He is also responsible for air operations of the military or the army. And in conjunction with the Air Force, he is responsible for overall air operations, coordination with the Air Force.
Yes, sir.
So this is in a nutshell, just a small, and then of course the administration, logistics of the complete man under his command. So this was the charter of duty. The army's presence is in all nooks and corners of the valley. The daily needs, the medical help and other things, education. Army, by the way, runs 28 Army Goodwill schools in Kashmir with 10,000 students. And the most beautiful part of this is not a single boy from Army Goodwill School has joined terrorism till date. That's a record in itself, how the education can change your life. Or I'll say how education can give you life. Because other boys who have joined terrorism have ended up dying in some encounter and somewhere or other. So the job of Chinar Corps commander was very challenging, very interesting, because every day in the evening when you got back into your room, you had sense of achievement. I have been able to achieve this today. Even if one boy returned from terrorism, that one life was saved, one family was saved. And we had more than 50 boys returning. It was a challenging experience, a challenging tenure, but I think God was kind. The Awam of Kashmir was very nice, and all the security forces with whom I was working with as a joint synergized team, everyone stuck to their work, and in the end, as they say, rest is history.
So, ladies and gentlemen, counter-terrorism is not just killing terrorists. It involves a lot of other things. It's not just violence. A huge part of counter-terrorism to spread love and not hate. Sir, moving on to the next question. In terms of counter-insurgency, counter-terrorism, how has it evolved? Especially, in fact, not just counter-insurgency, but insurgency itself. How has it evolved over the years, over time? And how have our tactics changed to cope with that, especially in the information age? How has that changed?
Actually, in the military, when I joined the army, or even before that, armies were trained for conventional operations. That is war, fighting, attack, advance, defense.
Yes, sir.
Slowly and slowly, especially in Northeast, when the counter-insurgency happened, I must tell you here, all the counter-insurgency in the Northeast or the counter-terrorism in Kashmir or Punjab earlier, they were all foreign-sponsored. There are foreign countries who are not friendly to India. They were always involved in this. So slowly and slowly, the bit of training started coming in, and mostly it was on-the-job training. Because maintenance of law and order is the state administration's charter. Yes. When Armed Forces yes. Special Powers Act comes in or the Disturbed Area Act comes in, then the army is called in to curtail the violence levels. Otherwise, per se, it's a state government's charter to maintain law and order. So, army came in at a stage where the situation had already aggravated to a point and beyond. In both the scenarios, Northeast and on the Western side. Not going into much details. So, this counter-insurgency, counter-terrorism is a job which has to be done. So, slowly and slowly, the way you said, how is the army geared up for it? Army started getting training in our schools of instructions. There were pamphlets which were issued. And most importantly, it was on-the-job training, and we were learning every day. That's how initially there were mistakes, there were casualties. And now we do very surgical precision operations. Unfortunately, still we suffer casualties because we don't want to do unacceptable collateral damage. Trying to avoid the collateral damage or to property and lives of the civilians, we suffer casualties. Like I always say, we take it on our chin. So this is how the situation stands now. Again, going back to the answer as to in this information warfare or information age, how do we handle it? Portion I have answered in the previous question.
Yes, sir.
It's not only killing of terrorists. It is the management of perception of the society so that we don't produce more terrorists in this information age. So transparency in operations, truthful reporting, and your conduct being above board is non-negotiable. Anyone who indulges in anything other than this is taken to task, and very harsh disciplinary action is taken and is made a specimen. We do not want to lose a war or battle of information or perception, wherein 99.9% of our forces are doing most ethical, transparent operations in the most military or soldierly manner with minimum force and good faith. So that remains the backbone for every commander. My biggest challenge is not to kill the number of terrorists. My biggest challenge is not to get more people joining the terrorist ranks as Corps Commander. And during my tenure, I've written about details in the book with numbers, how the graph declined during that period. So it's a sum total. My achievement is there. I have not allowed 100 more boys to get into terrorism and get killed. That's my achievement. Those 100 boys are living today with their family. They're surviving. We did an analysis of 1.5 years of data, the number of Kashmiri boys who picked up a gun over a year and a half, 2018 and 19. And the figures go like this. 7% of the boys who pick up the gun, they get killed within first 10 days.
Wow.
9% get killed, including those 7 in the first 1 month. 17% get killed in first 3 months. 34% in 6 months. And 64% of the boys who pick up gun, locals, they get killed in the first 1 year. So 64% are getting killed in the first 1 year. That is the shelf life of a terrorist today. Mothers of Kashmir understood this message and statistics. And that is when something called Operation Ma, again I've written in the book, Operation Ma became successful. And as I said earlier, more than 50 boys returned. I don't use surrender. 50 boys returned. Some of them are still in touch with me. They're having a good family life. They are enjoying their life. Otherwise, the shelf life of a terrorist we talked about, they may have been victims of that. So those are achievements. That is what a commander is supposed to do. So I'm so glad I could contribute to some living men today, to their lives.
I'm glad that you made such a difference by promoting peace over violence.
Let me explain to you. Kashmiri is a very wonderful person. He's a very emotional person. He is a very talented person. He loves his poetry. He loves his art. He loves his culture. He loves his music. He loves his sports. कलाकार है वो. चाहे वो पेपर मैशे है, चाहे वो नमदा है, चाहे वो कार्पेट वीविंग है, चाहे वो शॉल्स हैं, चाहे वो वुड वर्क है. He is a creator. चाहे वो सिल्वर स्मिथी है, गोल्ड स्मिथी है, कॉपर स्मिथी. He is the creator. He is the natural artist. He does not want to be involved with all these things. And he is not very radical in his thoughts, in his pehrawa as we call it, or his way of life. He is a very fun-loving person. He or she. कश्मीर की आप लिटरेचर देखो, वो ब्यूटिफुल.
Very.
Sufiana Kalam. So, coming back to the point, the young boy of Kashmir today or the young girl has future. Now he can compete at different levels. He has opportunities. The world is open for them like any other Indian. So there is a hope, and I'm sure we will be talking once you have good beard and nice mustache after a few years about much more beautiful things about Kashmir.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
I wish for peace for Kashmir.
Absolutely, we all do.
Yes, sir. So, expanding a bit more on the topic of counter-terrorism and counter-insurgency, what parallels can we draw with other countries, especially that have faced insurgency in their countries? Coming to a foreign insurgency, Rhodesia, what is now called Zimbabwe, they faced an insurgency, leaving the politics aside. What do you think? What are your thoughts on it? Because they employed a lot of tactics like gunships and cross-border strikes, even a grid similar to the Rashtriya Rifles. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, before I answer this question, I have been to Zimbabwe. I have interacted with the military officers who were one-time terrorists, which you referred to when the Rhodesian army was conducting operations.
Yes, sir.
And I interacted with them in great detail over the period of 5 to 7 days. Now, coming down to the question proper. See, every insurgency is based on the terrain in which it is operating. What's happening in the lower hills or the lower plains of Jammu region, the insurgency's modus operandi or the terrorist modus operandi is different. What happens in the northeast jungles, the terrorist modus operandi is different, where villages are sparse and the habitation is very less. What happens in the Kashmir valley, they operate differently. What happens in the low foothills of Kashmir, Pir Panjal and Shamshabari, the modus operandi is different. So much so, when I was commanding a Rashtriya Rifle sector in Handwara sector, I had 3 Rashtriya Rifle battalions under me, which you talked about. Modus operandi of 2 battalions was different than the 3rd battalion. The 3rd battalion had more built-up areas in their area of responsibility as compared to the jungles and high hills of the northern 2 battalions. So their operations in jungle, we employed a different tactics, which we called swarming operations. I covered this in my book.
Yes.
And in the area of the 3rd battalion, which was southernmost battalion of my area, and had more built-up areas, small villages next to Sopur or north of Sopur. So there the operations were conducting differently. Because fighting in built-up area or the operations in built-up area are different than operations in jungle. They are different than operations in high altitude. However, the basic concepts remain same, which I talked earlier. Minimum force, good faith, and transparency of operations, ethical operations. So what the Rhodesian army at that time did, I told you, they used gunships, which you yourself have read. We are not doing all those things. Our operations are very people-friendly operation. We give time to the terrorists even during the encounters to surrender.
Yes, sir.
We have brought the mothers of terrorists to the encounter site, made them speak to the terrorist and urge the boy to surrender or return. There were times when the mother is speaking to the terrorist and the terrorist mobile recharge has run out. We made the recharge for the terrorist so that he can speak to his mother or continue speaking to the mother. And we saved the life. So all the operations which are carried out based on the terrain, the modus operandi which terrorists employ. So it's a cat and mouse game. These are evolving techniques and tactics. We keep refining our drills, and that's how it works. Unlike the conventional wars, where anyone across the line is your enemy, and there are no holds barred to use what type of weapon system you want to use. You can kill an elephant or an ant with an iron hammer because you are at war with that nation. Here, within own country, the complexities of conducting counter-insurgency or counter-terrorism operations in own country are numerous. Like I said earlier, every life counts, every limb counts, every house counts. It's our moral and ethical duty as security forces to ensure minimum or nil collateral damage. That makes it very complex, and that is where the operational art or art of war, or how the leaders or the commanders conduct or orchestrate their operations, comes into play. That is the reason, again I refer to this in my book, that's the reason maximum officer casualties happen in the Indian Army. Because our officers lead from the front. We do not want a situation where officer who is most informed person because of his connectivity, He is getting information from his CO, he is getting information from brigade headquarters, he is getting information from the intelligence sources, because he has the communication system. So he is the best suited to take a decision or take a call what to do next. If he is not present at the point of decision, somebody will take a decision with not so many inputs available. Hence, the decision may not be the best option or the best decision. Therefore, it's a must for an officer to lead the operations, and I can tell you our young officers, the young captains and majors, they're doing a wonderful job in the most professional and I'll put it that way, in the most mature way, in spite of his number of years of service, his number of years of his age. They are the ones who are doing it for the nation.
So, coming to young officers, is there anything you would like to say to them? Any that might be watching?
Young officers, men and women alike, are the most professional officers in the Indian Army today. Not that earlier the officers were not that professional. Today, the connectivity, the information age which you talked
Yes,
about, the world, connected world, global village, internet availability, the information on our fingertips, the communications, they make this officer much more empowered. He is aware of everything. So he is coming to the army not to earn a livelihood. He is joining the army to make a difference for himself, his morale, his life, his family. So he is a different breed. People are leaving IITs, IIMs and joining the army.
Yes, sir.
I've seen some young girls who came as young officers. They've left the most poshest of jobs, most highly paid jobs, salaries, and come and join the army. And living in a bunker with 20 feet of snow all around. That is the type of officers we have today.
It is very honorable to serve one's country, and if you feel you have the skills, if you feel you have some unique skill, if you feel you're resourceful, then you should definitely try to apply for the army. तो सर आपकी बुक का टाइटल है कितने गाजी आए कितने गाजी गए, तो ये टाइटल कहाँ से आता है? और मुझे पता है कि आपकी काफ़ी पॉपुलर फ्रेज थी, पर उसका ओरिजिन क्या था?
कितने गाजी आए कितने गाजी गए, ये स्टेटमेंट आई थी पुलवामा आईडी ब्लास्ट के 100 घंटे बाद में, जब हमने पुलवामा हमले को अंजाम देने वाले मॉड्यूल को ख़त्म कर दिया था। उस मॉड्यूल का जो कमांडर था कामरान, एक पाकिस्तानी टेररिस्ट था वो, लेकिन उसका कोड नेम गाजी था। और गाजी जो वर्ड है, जहाँ कोड नेम है, ये पाकिस्तानी टेररिस्ट का बड़ा प्रेफर्ड कोड नेम रहा है शुरू से ही, क्योंकि मैं कैप्टन से लेके कोर कमांडर बनने तक 6-7 टेन्योर हैं कश्मीर में, तो बहुत से पाकिस्तानी टेररिस्ट जो पहले एलिमिनेट हुए थे उनका कोड नेम गाजी था।
यस सर।
तो जिस दिन से पुलवामा आईडी ब्लास्ट हुआ तो मीडिया में ये खबर बहुत फैल रही थी कि गाजी नाम के टेररिस्ट ने पुलवामा के आईडी को अंजाम दिया है। सो उस प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस में जब मैं बता रहा था कि हमने 100 घंटे के अंदर अंदर उन सबको ख़त्म कर दिया है, तो एक मीडिया पर्सन ने मेरे से सवाल किया कि सर, इज़ गाजी डेड और नॉट, क्या गाजी मर गया है या नहीं? तो मैं टेररिस्ट को ज़्यादा अहमियत ना देते हुए मैंने बोला कितने गाजी आए कितने गाजी गए, परवाह नहीं है, वी आर हियर। सो ये टैगलाइन बाद में पिक की, सबने, मीडिया ने भी पिक की, और यंग ऑफिसर्स ने अपनी पोस्ट के बाहर ये टैगलाइन मोरल बूस्टिंग के तौर पे लगानी शुरू की, कितने गाजी आए कितने गाजी गए। और हकीकत तो हमारे देश की ये है, मोहम्मद गजनी से लेके आज तक किसी गाजी की परवाह नहीं है, कितने गाजी आए कितने गाजी गए, डोंट वरी, इंडिया इज देयर, इंडिया विल रिमेन देयर।
बढ़िया सर। तो ये मतलब इम्प्रॉम्प्टू सा था, ऐसे ही आपने बोल दिया और फेमस हो गई लाइन।
यस, बेस्ट थिंग द हिस्ट्री हैपन विदाउट एनी प्रायर नोटिस।
Another question on a lighter note. You did an episode with Mr. Rocky Hundal, and I'm really wondering who ate more bhature.
I love the way you say bhature, because I heard my entire life people calling bhaturas, but you nailed it, and I can tell you Rocky also nailed it that day. But not going into who ate more bhaturas or bhature, what was the best thing about that episode was the company. Rocky is a wonderful gem of a man. And I always say, you don't enjoy the meal or the food or the ambience, you enjoy the company. I may be sitting in a 5-star eating the most exotic meal, but if the person sitting next to me is a very, obnoxious guy, I spoil my evening. I'll come back home and eat my dal roti again. Whereas a morning like that in Sector 28 Chandigarh that day with Rocky, it was fun. It was lovely. And at least I enjoyed his company, and I'm sure he also would have enjoyed, because we did another episode after that at a farmhouse. Wonderful guy. And yeah, bhaturas were good. They are always good. And for a Punjabi, this question need not be asked also. How are the bhaturas? In fact, I must tell you something. We went to see a movie. Our son was a very young boy, about 1.5 years age. So in the interval, I went to pick up some soft drinks and popcorns. So he was with me, and I just asked him, what do you want, a large one or a medium or small one? So naturally he said, large. The lady standing behind me, she says, that was quite an unnecessary question. Child will always say large. So Punjabi will always say, bhaturas, very good. Great.
Great. So that brings us to the end of this interview, and Sir is releasing his book soon, Kitne Ghazi Aaye, Kitne Ghazi Gaye, and I definitely recommend that you check it out. तो Sir, अब थोड़े से हम rapid fire questions करते हैं. मैं छोटे छोटे questions पूछूंगा और आपको एक word या एक line में answer करना है, जल्दी जल्दी. तो शुरू करते हैं. राजरिफ की war cry क्या है?
राजा रामचंद्र की जय.
और आलू परांठा या भटूरा?
Actually speaking, लाल मांस बाजरे की रोटी.
AK-47 या कार्बाइन?
Any day, AK-47.
और आपका फेवरेट सिटी क्या है?
फेवरेट सिटी श्रीनगर.
सैपर्स या आर्मर्ड? यहाँ पर कोई डिप्लोमेटिक जवाब नहीं चलेगा, आपको बताना पड़ेगा. एक
सैपर्स के बिना आर्मर्ड काम नहीं कर सकती, आर्मर्ड के बिना सैपर्स अधूरे हैं.
सर डिप्लोमेटिक.
It's a war effort. Let me explain this, although it's a rapid fire. Nations go to war. Defense forces merely fight on the borders. It's the comprehensive national power of the nation which is applied against the adversary. Similarly, it's the comprehensive military might of the nation which is applied. In the battlefield, we don't differentiate कि वो armored है, वो sapper है, वो infantry है, because एक दूसरे के बिना सब अधूरे हैं. हम हैं तो क्या हम हैं, तुम हो तो क्या तुम हो. That's how the wars are fought.
सर पर ये तो डिप्लोमेटिक जवाब ही हुआ. एक बता दो, कोई भी बता दो. 50-50.
चलो आर्मर्ड हैवी है, सैपर टेक्निकल है.
ठीक है. चंडीगढ़ या दिल्ली?
चंडीगढ़. द सिटी ब्यूटीफुल.
और आपकी फेवरेट स्वीट डिश क्या है?
Oh, churma. Most of us may not know what this churma is. You got to taste it to understand what churma is. Punjab में it's called churi. Churma is a Rajrif snack. और रोटी, देसी घी, चीनी या गुड़ का बनता है. लाजवाब. बेस्ट.
ट्राई करना पड़ेगा.
हाँ बिल्कुल.
और आपकी फेवरेट पोस्टिंग क्या है, क्या रही है?
Do I have to answer this? Kashmir.
Yes, you do.
Kashmir always and every time.
और आपकी फेवरेट मूवी क्या है?
English में there's a movie called Breaker Morant. It's about an Australian officer fighting in South Africa in the Boer War. And something happens in the first 20 minutes of the movie. And then rest of the movie is a court-martial of that officer. Classic military movie, especially if you want to get into the legalities of military operations and what happened to the soldier after the operation is over, how the legal things carry on. Breaker Morant, one of the best movies, least known movies, but best movies.
Check it out definitely. और हिंदी में?
पुरानी movies में Pakiza was good. And in the recent times, actually मैं ज़्यादा देखता नहीं हूँ, और Machis was a good movie. I think ज़्यादा मैं देखता नहीं.
So we have something in common.
Yeah.
Okay. So that brings us to the end of the rapid fire. And thank you very much, sir. Thank you for letting us interview you.
Thank you, Sohraab. It was nice talking to you.
Same here.
Have a wonderful life, have a wonderful future, have a wonderful career. Be a good boy, good son, good student, good citizen. Obey traffic rules. Don't throw trash on the roads.
I'll try my best, sir.
Bye-bye.
Friends, our Faujis have been and continue to be the lifeline of our nation. Come hell or high water, they have always been there for us, whether in times of war or natural calamity or any other challenge India has ever faced. And the culture, traditions and history of the Indian military are part of a rich heritage, painstakingly preserved by one and all. To cherish and celebrate this heritage, a unique initiative called Fauji Days has been launched by the budding startup 99 Beagles. So what is Fauji Days? Well, it is primarily an oral history project based on interviews and recordings. Faujis always have tons of stories to relate, many of them inspiring, thought-provoking, funny or engaging, and highly satisfying for the curious, especially young adults in their formative years. These engaging interactions between officers, men and women from our services, with young adults from schools and universities are being captured on camera by us. We want to showcase the diversity of lived experiences on the one hand and the perceptions and expectations on the other. Allow me to also add that the scope of Fauji Days initiative is not limited to just oral history. It also encompasses the written word and the world of military publishing. Already, several books by eminent military authors have been published under this umbrella, and all have been well received by the readers. The Fauji Days website is another crucial resource designed to house the diverse aspects of this project. It features multiple blogs, reference and archival material, and a community newsletter that highlights the progress made, as well as the new recordings and books. Feel free to log on and subscribe. I warmly welcome you to be a part of this initiative, no matter what color uniform a Fauji wore, or whether he or she served on terra firma, flew in the air, or rode the waves. The fact remains that each one of these brave hearts is a reservoir of remarkable tales and cherished memories. Fauji Days wants to share these memories and tell these tales to a much wider audience. If a nation is made of memories, then Fauji Days will prove that Fauji men and women have contributed some of the best. As a Fauji, you can reach out to us and tell us about your rich experiences. Get in touch and we will revert with an audiovisual team equipped to capture your recall. Or if you're too distant, we can guide you about how to record and send it to us. Of course, you can also write your tale and send it to us to be featured here. We have the wherewithal to capture you on video from whatever location on the planet. All we want is to know your story so that India knows her story better. It is incomplete without yours. Please also feel free to send your contributions to this archive of India's valor in the form of nostalgic pieces, anecdotes, pictures, or other content you may wish to share with the wider Fauji Day community. On behalf of Team 99 Beagles, I thank you. As they say, Fauji Days never end. In fact, they are just beginning. So, Fauji Days forever. Jai Hind.